welcome to stand up.
Welcome to stand up. We were just like rambling about some shit before, and we were like, should we press play? We haven't recorded in a few
We
days
should
because
we
it's been
should
really
definitely
freaking
press
hectic.
record. It was getting good.
Yeah, it was getting good, and we just like haven't recorded in a few days. It's just been like really hectic and super busy, and feeling blessed. And what we were just talking about real quick is man, we hear from businesses all the time, as recently as like a couple hours ago, that are really struggling to find their way, especially agency and service model businesses that are really struggling to figure out how to navigate the age of AI. And I'm like seeing people desperate, like flailing. And I don't know why we look and appear like we're doing something special that's out of the book, but like I think talking about our formula and what we do and what we have always just focused on has kind of made it so that like we are so prime for the moment that we're in right now. Like God listened to me 10 years ago and built a world perfect for the cause of a kind model. And I'm like,
He
how the hell
built
did
the
that
right
happen,
conditions.
bro? How did that happen? And so like we were talking about a whole bunch of things, and the most recent thing that we were talking about is like, what does it mean for product market fit for a service business? And lots of businesses have built in legacy environments. Very classically, if you're a service business and like maybe you offer like marketing and advertising, well, the way that you offered that 20 years ago is definitely not the same that you did it today. Everybody knows that. The businesses that were able to adapt through that still exist. The ones that were not able to adapt don't exist. And so what's interesting about you and me is our ability to adapt. But like, I'm not waiting for the market to shift. You and I did not wait for the market to shift or anything to change. We just built this business the way that we always would have wanted to buy from this business if we were in that position. And maybe that was really the smart way to do it, because it set us up for a foundation that is allowing us to navigate this moment pretty successfully. So we were talking about product market fit, and you have some ideas on what that actually means for a service business.
Yeah. So you kind of said like it's not food and beverage, apps, these have product market fit, but service businesses don't. You sort of have. It is true. When we started a development agency or a marketing agency or whatever you do, you know that there's somebody in the world buying your service. So you inherently don't need to find product market fit in the sense that should a dev agency exist, I could point you to 50 other ones. I know that they exist, and they will continue to exist. So you kind of step into a saturated market without the question. The easy part of the business is you don't have this question of, does the world need my thing? You're not building Airbnb trying to invent a category. However, I do think that there is a signal of product market fit in the service business. It is the white whale, the thing that I have been looking for and we have yet to achieve. And I don't think I've ever worked in an agency that kind of had this. But here's what it is, in my opinion. It is when the people who want to buy your service exceed your ability to service them. So I actually, so you've probably seen on websites, on some agencies, they're like 3 spots available. That's all bullshit. You guys know this is all marketing. But I actually think that when you're an agency with product market fit, you actually can say, we are at capacity today. And there are 3 people in line, and I actually cannot service them. If I had room, they would be the perfect client, but I am going to forward them to a competitor, or I'm going to make the conscious choice to grow my agency by the headcount required to service those projects. I don't think we've ever felt it. I've never actually experienced it. I've experienced an agency, and even in our agency, having a period of time where we were like,
Yes.
oh my God, if we sign one more client, we're screwed. Followed by a period of time where we need 3 more clients or 4 more clients. But I've never sat there and said, wow, there's just a complete perfect growth curve moving to the ceiling. So to me, that is what like product market fit would feel like as an agency, where I never worry where my next meal is going to come from. People are just raining French fries down on the parking lot, and the seagulls are going after them, and I'm one of those seagulls, like that kind of like. Now, does that exist? I'm trying to create that. That's, to me, when I look at like the North Star, what's the perfect goal? I want to be the most in-demand digital agency in the entire world. Now, whether or not I want to be the biggest is different. I want to be the most in demand. And so that's where I think as a service business, product market fit exists.
I think that's an interesting perspective, is to like be so in demand that the only thing to do is to contemplate whether you grow or whether you turn business away. Like that probably is a signal for product market fit. But what about businesses that have just earned the right to exist and they don't get a lead all the time because that's just not the nature of that industry? But the leads that they do get propel a business forward. Maybe they don't give you like, meteoric growth, but not every industry, not every product warrants that kind of growth trajectory. So I wonder if there are just like levels. And the reason why we're having this conversation is because like everybody's trying to figure out how to navigate the change in service industry. How do I position my business? How do I differentiate against the hour? If I was selling big teams of 10 before, how do I sell a team of 2 now for the same revenue? Businesses are, so product market fit to me is a moving target. Like what you're looking for is based on the brand reputation of Cause of a Kind, not the service that we sell. The brand reputation of Mike Rispoli, the fractional CTO, not the way you implement that service or run the business with the tools you use that would have been different 10 years ago as it is for today. And so I wonder, is product market fit about the thing you do, or is product market fit about the reputation that you have? And I contemplate this because I hope it's both. And I think you see periods of time where it definitely is both. And it feels like, man, the thing is humming. But I also am just like, is a founder-led business actually a business that has market fit, not product fit, but market fit?
You kind of like, you describe a scenario that's so interesting to me. One of the scenarios is brand based, which sounds a lot like Red Bull, which I love your content, but I will never drink that stuff. So to me, I look at that as a business that I look at them and I go, they're like you ever have a store in your neighborhood and you're just like, they must be selling drugs. Cause like, I've never seen anybody go into this place. There's like a little shoe store by me. Same situation. Like I was like, does anybody buy shoes at this place? Like, it's just crazy to me that they even exist. Red Bull is like that to me. I go, does anyone drink this shit? But I know they put out killer content, love the content. And like, there's ad money and stuff like that. But I don't think I've seen a person drink a Red Bull in many, many years in the wild. And I definitely like, as you become more health conscious and older, I'm like, I'm never drinking that stuff. But when you're all brand, I see a scenario that could happen where like, maybe I'm going to use Ogilvy as the example. I know they make money. Don't crash. But like, you think of the Ogilvy, the advertising agency from like the 1960s, the brand holds to today. But you wonder, like, is anyone spending money? Like, would anyone go to Ogilvy and like drop all that coin now? Now, I think they do because I still think that you want fresh creative. So they're in like a totally different industry. But there is this world of having so much brand, but that not converting into money. Does that happen? I don't know.
Of course. Well, dude, of course. You see it all the time. Like Spirit Airlines just went out of business. Like
well, they had a terrible brand. I was like, listen, let's not bail Spirit out. That's a bad investment.
Yeah,
right, everybody joke that you get in there and they have a lawn chair. It's like bleacher seats for airlines. But I digress.
But I do think like there is that synergy between brand and the service that you provide or the product that you sling. And sometimes you could be too brand heavy and not deliver a good product, which I think is kind of the Spirit Airlines analogy. Like you could have a really well-known brand. I mean, who doesn't talk about Spirit Airlines, but it's not coming from a place of quality. It's coming from a place of usually.
But you know what? What's kind of interesting? They're a great example of what's happening, right? They were based in fuel being cheap. Basically, they based their ticket prices on being as cheap as they possibly could make it. And a lot of agencies were based on this. How cheap could we make the billable hour? Assuming that it was never going to shift. And then AI comes along and it changes all of that, because now you've got a person who maybe would have charged $200 an hour, but their output is massive compared to the inexperienced person who was charging $5, $10, $15 an hour. So now that shift is crazy, because if you were an agency selling teams, which was what a lot of agencies had done, is you sold hours and bodies. Now the metric isn't hours and bodies. You and I stubbornly tried so hard to never do that. We have subscription based now. We always looked at Brett from Design Joy as like the dream. And I always just would be up at night thinking, how the heck do I do this for dev? Because it was so common for there to always be too much development to do that you could never get, like you could never achieve, no matter how fast I was at building products, unless it was truly the same product that I had built before. If I got into like some kind of a specialty, every single fresh product, it was very hard to say I could just charge $4,000 a month and you'll never exceed that. But AI kind of changed that and said, wait a minute, now the fixed scope is possible from the perspective of the actual code authoring can become cheaper, but now I have a problem. I need more leads. I have a volume problem because I can build lots of small products very quickly. I can build lots of products for businesses, but now I need more businesses. So you switch your problems, and they're feeling it too, because now it's like, well, I want to sell the billable hour, and while I'm on the call, if you were competing with me, I could be done with a big chunk of the product by the time an hour call ended with the thoughtfulness, because now you realize the value of the thoughtfulness. What I think we always sold and was very hard to convey to people was when you give a product to someone or a vision to someone, there's all this mortar in between the bricks that just goes unsaid. And that was always the big difference between maybe going outsourced versus going to your local boutique shop like we are here in New York, right? Was we could fill in those blanks very intuitively without giving you an absolute heart attack the next morning that like, what direction did you go in? Now, those blanks are very, 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 very valuable because we can lay down code as fast as the cheaper folks. And so it's such a big shift. Thank God we kind of stuck with it, with the idea of the subscription, because that seems to be the way I think that makes sense now to operate.
You know, it really was through the stubbornness. Like we were like, yo, if I'm running this agency, I want it to be the absolute premium. I never want to compete on price. I always wanted to go toe to toe on skill. We even ran like a marketing campaign years ago, which was like mano y mano, your best man versus Mike. And let's just see who's successful. Whether you would win or not is kind of irrelevant.
Yeah, I still offer that up on X sometimes when people are like I don't need an engineer. I could vibe code faster than them. There was a little post that went around that said something to that effect, that I can actually vibe code faster than an engineer because I don't sweat the small stuff. And I said, bring it right here. Let's prove it.
Yeah, let's try.
I don't think that's going to be true, but we'll see. I said, I'll sweat the small stuff and I'll still outcode you. Because that stuff becomes important, especially if you're operating. The other thing that's happening is I think that the consumer apps have kind of gotten taken off the table for us to even compete for. So before, you needed a dev shop for your landing page. You needed it for every single little idea that you wanted to potentially build.
That's right.
Now, the things that you're going to pay me to build are typically, I'm going to be in the medical, I'm going to be in education, I'm going to be in government, I'm going to be in some regulated industry. I actually need this thing to not have security holes and failures and bugs in crazy places. It's not going to be some like, oh, I want to build the Tinder for dogs. You know, like, great, you can use Lovable for that thing. I actually, those types of businesses come off the table. We've seen people spend a lot of money building stuff like that. Now the bar is raised where people are domain experts. They've maybe even gone into Lovable and they've built entire products and they said, this is great. This is what I want, but I cannot release it because I got to sell it to this place. They want pieces of it to be on-prem. I got to deploy this thing in this place. I got to get a SOC 2 compliance. Now AI will guide you through a lot of that, but my God, it's a lot of steps. You actually start to see now, okay, now I need people that can navigate that space. That also changed too. The bar has gotten raised for what would be an agency project, whereas before almost everything was an agency project of some kind.
Which, man, again, like the universe is coming my way. You and I have always like had this thing, you got to keep cars on the road. We've definitely taken advice from other agencies that have withstood the test of time. Like sometimes you got to take the little projects to keep people busy, keep the cars on the road. There are no cars on this road anymore. And so the things that we're looking for is I'm looking for semi trucks. I'm looking for tractor trailers now. I'm looking for really big, durable projects that actually need and value the type of service that we perform. What that allows you to do is taking us forever to claim a niche, to be able to have the confidence of turn away work that's not appropriate for us. You know, I heard a quote the other day on School of Hard Knocks, which was, not all money is good money. We've always said this, like it's okay to turn away a good deal. It's not okay to take a bad deal. And so, however you want to wrinkle that, the universe kind of played through our hand right here. The little stuff that we historically would have been drained by now is all vibe codable. Everybody should just do that stuff on their own. The real stuff that needs hardcore engineering, which is the thing that we want to be known for, it's just part of our toolkit. They're coming to us for that connective tissue between the problem statement. And that's really where we shine, is like truly being an extension of a problem and of a team and foreseeing a business ahead of us. If I have to work on just like a tiny little project, historically, sure, that would have kept people busy for a minute, but that's where like the variability in the business comes from. Like I might have 10 leads for tiny gigs right now, then those jobs go away, and all of a sudden you made a strategic hire. Now I got to keep that person on the books. My expenses are bloated, but my pipeline's reduced. And so lots of businesses, I think, did that, which was like, let's get into volume, both leads and talent. And then eventually the leads dry up, but the talent persists. And now you're looking at really hard equations, which is either how long do I run, hoping that the leads pick up, and how long do I go into deficit for, or do I lay people off? And both of those conversations are super uncomfortable, especially for a service business. I don't want to lose the talent because I know the leads are coming, but I also can't keep the talent because I don't know when the leads are coming. And so that's also a thing that you and I have tried to figure out, like, where is the faucet? And that's what you're talking about, which is the version of product market fit, which is, I just want everybody to be nipping at our heels all the time and have the right of refusal and only hire the best possible talent that we can strategically and rarely based on a market force against us. The combination of all of that, we're just positioned for that. We've always been lean. We've always decided to go for talent density. We've always turned away work that was just not exciting or we're not emotionally invested in. Like whatever way we did it, whether it was the right or wrong way, it lets us be pretty versatile in this moment right now. I'm not threatened at all by the age of AI. We have totally figured out how to navigate this at the moment. Now we just need more leads. Still profitable, still doing great.
Well, it kind of solved, again, the biggest problem, and we did a lot of messaging around this, around agile methodology, and then you always had to educate people as to why you couldn't have, fixed time, fixed scope, fixed budget. You couldn't do all of those things at once because it was very hard. Now the question is my product sense and taste good enough to kind of keep you from building too much stuff that'll almost be a detriment to the product? We definitely don't have that issue as much anymore where you could go upside down on a project because there's too much to do. It's almost like we can exceed all of your ideas for the most part, unless they're like really out there. The build part isn't the problem. It's actually like a restraint. And that's where the fractional CTO piece, some people are calling it CPTO. We were calling it, I even call it almost forward deployed engineering now. I think that people who are great with design and product fall into this, where you now need to pass it through a filter of people who are going to say, these are the things we should leave behind. Not because they're going to be too costly, not because we can't, not because it's too technically difficult, because they actually hurt the product and make it bloated and ruin things a little bit and aren't really true to the goal. So it's saying no to those things. But then the other side of it, dude, is we've definitely been saying yes to stuff that's new. So the other thing is looking for, and I put this out the other day, which is being a little bit more of a yes man. The thought that I had is keep saying yes until you find the thing, right? So in this quest for product market fit, I do know that there are somewhat less software projects, but people are looking for help with other things that also involve software. Things like marketing, and they kind of come in looking for like social media or something like that, but then you start to realize all the funnels are broken and the website is clunky and they're not measuring the right things and all these things where it's like, well, you can build,
CRM
but you're not right. You don't have all the tools to actually execute proper marketing. So for the first time, we're looking at, is marketing the avenue where clients have historically asked us for help with this, but it was always hard to do both at the same time. Now it's a little bit easier. It's, hey, actually, we probably should be more invested in your success. Marketing makes some sense. We even had someone ask us about hardware the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought,
the infrastructure, sure.
I'm not opposed. In fact, we're kind of getting interested in hardware because hardware is kind of cool, especially in the age of AI with my personal computer and setting up, learning a little bit more about networking. So this goes to another thing that I have stressed upon the team members that are here, and I've challenged both you and our program manager, Matt, both, where I say, expand your knowledge into more areas because there's really not an excuse for not learning.
That's
and
right.
I was watching Mad Men the other day, and almost every job in that show doesn't exist. Every single person, whether it be a CSM or a creative, they all had a secretary. There's maybe one office manager now in most offices. Every employee doesn't have a secretary, just typing up handwritten notes. What happened? Computers, people learn to type. There's a bank of girls at the phone. When a call comes in, they unplug it, and they plug it to the net. I mean, your grandfather probably lived in an office that worked like this.
Absolutely.
Plugged in the phone. That job doesn't exist, handled by technology, right? And so when you watch the arc of that show, if you've ever watched the entire show, it's not that, they don't really focus on like the jobs disappearing. It happens at a slow rate. And I don't like talking about this idea that jobs are going to disappear. They change. Peggy starts as a secretary and becomes a copywriter. Joan started as a secretary, was the office manager, and then they end up running their own agency. And what is the difference? Well, from being around, the creatives are using tracing paper, and then film comes along, and it's TV, and everything turns into television. So everybody experiences shifts, and then there are people who lament the old thing, but then there's people who say, hey, I want to start the film division. The one guy goes, I want to do the film and TV division. It kind of like propels him forward because this thing that was seen as like this silly little joke suddenly by the final season is the biggest piece of the advertising world and would become the rise. So what I encourage you guys to do is ask the questions, right? You guys had particularly questions around DNS, and I go, what a great time to learn about DNS. You can ask it, explain it to me like I'm 5 years old. You can build it up. I don't need to see all the things that you didn't know, and you don't have to feel uncomfortable asking those questions. But now you've leveled up, and now you're selling a product from a level that no other salesperson is able to do because they're kind of doing things the way that they always have done. Everybody, I think, is going to just be expected to just continue to level up. For me, as a fractional CTO, there used to be, there still is. There's the CTO and then there's the CISO role. I'm fully expecting me to have to own all of that. The whole thing. I'm going to have now there's CPTO, Product and Technology Officer. Guess what? I expect you to be great at product, technology, and security. And you want to know something? It used to be the case that you couldn't be great at both, but I'm going to go ahead and challenge myself to say, hey, maybe we can be great at both. We have better tools to do these things. So our agency is going to expand the offering. So there's sort of a horizontal expansion of the offering itself. There's a deciding not to do billable hours, but now I can actually say, hey, what do you need? What's missing in the org that you have? And I can help you with security. I can help you with marketing. I can help you with your website. I can help you with tech because we now have this ability to go a lot broader than we did before, both as individuals and as a company. Now, where does that leave the niche? I'm sure verticals are going to present themselves. I don't stress that. I don't stay up at night thinking about what's mine. I think like, you know what? The niche is going to present itself because I'll do a piece of work that'll refer me a piece of work that'll refer another one. The niche kind of reveals itself as you go. I just think that we all have to push ourselves harder to say, hey, we can broaden our knowledge here. And just like those Mad Men offices, I think that every single job that exists there, none of those jobs exist today. All of the people that would have done those jobs in the past are now doing different things, and they'll do different things in the future. What those things are going to be, I don't know. I'm fairly certain there's going to be some doomer that comments below that says, this is different this time, everything's going to get one shot. To you, I say, you probably ate the whole bag of AI mushrooms and you need to come down a little bit. I think that there's everybody knows that guy, right? So like, I think that there's a reality here, but I just think it's just going to be us expanding what we know and what we need to do.
Well, and I think that comes right back down to the more knowledge that you and your team can expand on leads to new avenues of lead and opportunity for the business. And so if you're a business out there, particularly an agency, and the thing that you have historically been slinging feels really hard right now, well, you're probably a smart person. You should probably learn some complementary skills and evolve the way that you provide service into the world. The thing that we are not evolving is the way that we engage with people, which is the way that we began, which was super contrarian to the way that this industry worked in the first place. And so the thing that I don't have to worry about is how do I compensate my people and how am I compensated from my partners? It's only a matter of what is the service that I'm providing to them. So I don't have to worry about it. I treat everything as the same, super high talent, super high value. And if I don't know something, A, my ability to learn it for today is incredible. But B, there are experts out there and they all are looking for work. And so I'm very comfortable to go and sell the thing. I have enough knowledge on most topics in this industry to be able to sell the dream. And then I worry about fulfilling it. And so I think a lot of businesses are really struggling because they rested on the thing that was working. And you and me are never comfortable. Nothing has ever worked so damn well that I was like, we're not going to change a thing. We're just going to keep it like that. We always have to period. You know?
Never. We've never had that. That's the product market fit. I go, when are we going to come across something like that? I don't know. Maybe it just never happens. And this is kind of the cross to bear if you are a business owner, is you're always shifting with these times and you have to just stay lean and nimble enough to do it. I wonder how like a really large agency an Ogilvy is a great case study because they were 1960s ad firm as the one I described, and now it's 2026. What a shift.
Innovator die, man.
Basically be a business to survive, you know what I mean? Half a century's worth of technological innovation. Is it for better? Is it for worse? Of course, there's a nostalgia for what advertising used to be. I know that. I mean, listen, you used to watch the Super Bowl for the ads. This year, everything kind of looked, first of all, everything was released ahead of time and everything kind of stunk. It wasn't the same as it was, but that doesn't mean that there's less advertising. There's like more to be done. It's just not as high. It's just not as high quality or innovative. But that also means that if you sell innovation, you really stand out these days. So there's like these weird opportunities that form around these pockets where it's like, oh, that thing died. But then if you're the only one left or you're really good, actually your value goes up in that thing. So if you're like the killer hand coder, I will bet you anything that there are going to be industries that are not vibe coding at all. And I think medical device is probably the number one thing where I think that if you look at like Claude's uptime, that is not acceptable for your pacemaker. So that's never, but if you're one of those people, but the thing is, in order to take that spot, you're going to have to be like the Babe Ruth of freaking hand code. I don't think there's too many of those people. Maybe like the John Carmacks of the world that are really, really incredible at this may get real, there's going to be like really high value, I think, for these very few jobs. Just like there's COBOL and mainframe jobs that are very high paying. Still, there's just a lot less of them. But if you're kind of like us, I would say, a little more on the average side and really kind of looking to going with where the industry is going isn't a bad thing. I think pushing those boundaries is not going to lead you to a worse place. I think we will end up in a better place. There's a lot going on right now. It's not just AI. You're fighting against high interest rates, wars, market forces. Right? What you hear on the news is only a fraction. The economy's not, this is not the I don't know what it is, but it's not the best economy we've ever lived through. So, take solace in the fact that some of this is a little out of your hands also. And we're being gaslit, the AI story, in a lot of cases.
In a lot of cases. And the thing to index on is talent density. That's always been the thing that we've indexed on. That's the only thing that I can guarantee. Only thing that I can guarantee So,
The skill's the only
how
thing I
I
can't
do
take
it
from
is
you.
irrelevant. Yeah. Correct. That's correct.
That's it.
Dude, thanks for a
So-
good episode.